Before sewing, we need to clip our pieces into place. So make sure that you take your vamp and you flip it over so the right side of the vamp is touching the right side of the moccasin sole. Just like that. We're now going to sandwich in our welt. Now, when placing your welt, you want to make sure that it stays flush with the edge of the vamp, not the moccasin sole. So I usually sandwich mine in beforehand, and I measure it so that it's nice and flush all the way around the outside edge of the vamp, just like that. Then we're going to clip in the 3 places that we tacked down for the lining. So either side of the notches on the moccasin sole, and then in the middle. So taking these clips, I really like these clips. We're going to line up the corner of the vamp with that side notch on the moccasin sole. So right here, sandwiching the welt in between. So there's our first clip. Making sure that our welt stays nice and flush to the edge of the vamp, we're going to now clip the center. So that's nice and flush. Make sure, there we go. And then the center here with the center notch on the moccasin sole. And we're going to clip just like that. And then same on this side. So keeping the welt nice and flush with the vamp edge, and then clipping to that side notch. Just like that. When sewing the outer moccasin together, we're actually going to be using the exact same procedure that we did when sewing the lining. Starting with our glover's needle and sinew, we're going to use a whip stitch at a 1/4 inch seam allowance to sew the vamp, sandwiching the welt in between to the moccasin sole. Just a refresher, you want to start at the corner of the vamp and sew to this notch. Do the same on the other side, from the corner to that notch. Any of the excess material around the toe will then be puckered in using a puckering stitch. When sewing the outer moccasin, you want to make sure that with each whip stitch you pull really tight on your sinew. Not too tight that it's going to break, but tight enough that it pulls all 3 layers of fabric nice and tightly together. Using our puckering technique, the same one we used when sewing the lining, we're going to stitch all of this excess material into the toe area on either side. Once you have finished sewing the moccasin vamp to the moccasin sole, flip your moccasin right side out. The next step is to trim down the welt. You want to trim it quite short so it gives a piping-like effect. Next, we're going to stitch together the heel. Similarly to the lining, with right sides together, we're going to use a whip stitch at a 1/4 inch seam allowance to stitch this seam closed. Stay tuned for more on creating the outer moccasin in tomorrow's video.